Imagine you're in the mountains at night, driving down a windy road in the middle of nowhere. The last time you saw the glimmering lights of a nearby city was 45 minutes ago, when you stopped for gas. But now, it's just you, the light of your headlights, and the dangers of the Appalachia under a star-freckled sky. You see a figure dash across the road from your rearview mirror. What the hell? It was taller than any man you'd ever seen, and so hairy. But werewolves aren't real, are they? Welcome back to Things of Legends. In today's video, we're venturing through the lore of a mountain range that's older than Saturn's rings. Don't worry, you'll hear more about our friend in the woods soon. Keep watching to learn A, how these eerie tales have transformed storytelling in today's day and age, and B, what creatures lie hidden in the dark forests of the Appalachian mountain. Before we get into the myths and creatures part, here's a little history. 1.2 billion years ago, the Earth only had one continent called Pangaea. Long story short, it broke up into all the continents we have today, and the central Pangaean mountain range divided with it, creating the Appalachians in North America and the Highlands in Scotland, and a bit of it landed elsewhere. But the Appalachians by far have got much more scary crap going on in them. While the Appalachian Mountains significantly predate the concept of language, as long as there have been people, there have been stories. From Native American tribes to European settlers to slaves, a variety of people settled in the mountain range and over time realized that in order to survive living in this secluded forest, they needed to prioritize community. A strong commitment to keep tradition alive through oral storytelling from generation to generation tied people together. Let's dive in, shall we? Number 1. Bigfoot. Did you know that there have been close to 75,000 reported sightings of Bigfoot to the Bigfoot Field Research Organization? Yes, we had to do a double take on that one too. But I mean, the Appalachian Mountains are vast and mysterious. Who knows what lurks beyond the trees? Bigfoot, also commonly referred to as Sasquatch, is a massive ape-like creature that stands over 7 feet tall and has thick, dark fur. It's said to leave footprints that are up to 24 inches long and 8 inches wide, hence the name. It's also said to be nocturnal and very intelligent. Bigfoot, or is it Big Feet, are capable of using tools, making shelters, and communicating with other Bigfoot, or Big Feet. A lucky few have even claimed the creature has psychic abilities. Most Bigfoot sightings that are legitimized by the BFRO take place along the Appalachian Mountains, specifically in northern Georgia. One of the most referenced pieces of evidence is a dashcam video from a Lumpkin County Sheriff's Office deputy back in 2009. But it was proven to be a hoax. In the video, you can see a dark figure running across the road in front of the officer's car. It's very compelling. Until we read an article revealing that 2 local college students dressed in gorilla suits have been doing it as a prank. Oops. Despite that one, there are still like 74,999 sightings yet to be disproven. Whether it's real or not, these stories have brought people together. They still do. Before the internet, oral storytelling was a vital part of the Appalachian identity, so don't dismiss it as a hoax or a myth right away. I mean, these tales are practically treasured pieces of folklore and art. Nowadays, the legend has inspired entire podcasts like Sasquatch Chronicles and TV shows like Harry and the Hendersons or Finding Bigfoot on Animal Planet. The last one has 12 whole seasons, by the way. What do you think? Are there really big-footed Sasquatch lurking in the trees? Or are you a non-believer? Comment below. Number 2. The Brown Mountain Spirits. What would you do if you were camping and all of a sudden you saw floating orbs only 15 feet above you? Legend has it, over the Brown Mountains near Morganton, North Carolina, the spirits of Catawba women appear in the form of glowing orb-like lights that hover 15 feet above the ground. The lights have been said to appear after rainfall and in many colors, such as blue, white, orange, and red. It's believed that before Europeans settled in the area, after a bloody battle between the Cherokee and the Catawba nations that lived there, many women were left searching for their lost loved ones until they themselves had passed away. These sparkling orbs are said to be the spirits of the women who still hopelessly search after all these years. Before electricity, sparkling orbs above the mountains would definitely be a much more alarming encounter then than now. Nowadays, that could be anything. It could be a streetlight for all I care. But in the 1700s, what in the world was floating above the Brown Mountains? Legends like these are hard to preserve because over time, they lose credibility to the history and science moving around them. And of course, there was a point in time when people didn't have glasses because they just weren't common yet. So was it really something odd that they saw? Or could they just not see? Either way, back in the day, most people believed what they heard and communities would rally together to figure it out. The first sighting of the lights was in 1771 by a German engineer, John William Gerard de Bram, who wrote about them in his journal. However, skeptics like to line up the timeline of his sightings to the schedule of a nearby train and chalk it up to the railroads. Also, as the area gained access to electricity, there was also a huge spike in sightings, which isn't a huge surprise. What's odd, though, is that knowing what we know now, people still claim to see these mysterious lights. If it's not a street lamp or a train light, what is it? Number 3. Moon-eyed people. According to Cherokee legends and Appalachian folktales, a group of short, stout, bearded, pale-skinned humanoids with large blue eyes might be hiding somewhere in the Appalachian range. Their eyes are supposedly so sensitive to the sun that they remain nocturnal, hence, they're called moon-eyed people. Legend says that the Cherokee tribes would wait for the full moon to drive them out from their underground caves when the moon was bright. The light would make them weak, and they'd be forced to flee to other parts of Appalachia for good. In the early 1840s, a 3-foot-tall sculpture was found and thought to have been made to represent the moon-eyed people at the time of the legend. There are also some ruins of an 850-foot-long wall. In L.E.J., Georgia, the wall has always been said to have been constructed by these mysterious beings. There's something particularly unsupernatural about the legend of the moon-eyed people, though. The suspicious part of this myth is that the moon-eyed people were considered a distinctively separate race of people rather than supernatural beings. They weren't described as ghosts, spirits, animals, or anything like that. They were described as a different kind of people. It might seem obvious now to believe that they were just European settlers. Could the story have developed after a few violent encounters between the settlers and natives, where the native tribes retold it to future generations to keep them safe and vigilant? Well, maybe, although some sources claim the story dates back to a time long before the early 1800s, hundreds of years before any record of European contact in North America. So who knows? It's all a big mystery in my book. What about yours? Whether or not you consider yourself a believer, we can all agree that it's possible that over time, people have turned to superstitions and folklore to find some sort of sense in the world when it felt out of whack, possibly even misconstruing these eerie accounts like a game of telephone. In communities such as those of the Appalachia, where everything is mostly isolated, before the internet, traditional storytelling was one of the only ways to pass on culture and protect others. Think about it like this. Bigfoot can literally mean a monster in the woods, but to a parent sending their kid off to a friend's house in a dark neighborhood, Bigfoot could have been a less emotional way to say, hey, be safe out there tonight. The internet has made the need for cautionary tales much less dire than in the past. Now, you can just send a text. Originally, when families moved out to the Appalachian Mountains, it was because coal mining was thriving. But now, the need for coal mining has declined, so there isn't much to do around there now other than be on the internet. The culture has shifted from being reliant on word of mouth to now being reliant on an internet connection to be kept in the loop. What's great is that the internet has been key to keeping these tales alive, kinda like what we're doing right now. Oral storytelling is the only reason we even know these legends exist. Thankfully, today we can go back and learn all about them for fun. Because of all the technology we now have, we can also record the stories digitally and pass them on forever. Unfortunately, it does make it a bit easier to speculate and debunk the fun, but only if you're a non-believer. Okay. Now before we end this video, some of you might be ready to yell at your screens, "What about the Mothman?" We didn't forget about the Mothman. While digging up stories, there was just too much mystery to fit in this video, so we're going to make a separate video diving deep into his lore. Make sure you subscribe to catch that one.